really. Doing your own thing. Diana Rossini, breaking news. Nick's favorite story. Bengals have been very motivated to extend their superstar wide receivers. Significant progress has been made with both T and Jamar, the latter of whom, Jamar, received his first offer from the team during the Combine, expecting the duo to receive over $70 million per year combined. So we'll take a gander at what that breaks down to.
40 for Jamar and 30 for T. That's what I think it would. That's what I think it would be.
Seems like a lot of money.
Yeah, listen, if they get this done, then I have I gotta own it, classic category 3 about them and T. Higgins, because I have been, for multiple years, saying I think they should trade T. Higgins because they obviously are not going to pay both Jamar and T. Higgins. So I will end up being wrong about that. But the reason I thought that is because it is such a bad idea, I didn't think they would do it. I think this is a bad idea. I think that when you had as effective of an offense as you are likely to ever have in Joe Burrow's career moving forward last year, and you missed the playoffs in an expanded field, and Bo Nix and the Broncos got in, and Russell Wilson and the Steelers got in because they had complete teams, I think this is a misuse of your resources. Now, if all of a sudden I thought the Bengals were going to take a page out of the Eagles playbook, which is like, you know what? These next 5 years, we're going to put a ton on the credit card. We're going to restructure, you know what I mean? We're going to do void years and really go for it and kind of have a larger salary cap than everyone else, then I'd be fine with it. But that's Mike Brown's not doing that. So this money is going to come from money they could have been spending on the defense, and so I just think it's a mistake.
No. Well, this is what Nick got wrong about that. They didn't do, but what the Eagles did was they were able to spend money on offense, and then they had Fangio, an elite defensive coach who will now know how to maximize the talent, will be able to draft and get young guys and put them in positions to succeed. The Eagles are not the Eagles without Fangio. That's just a fact. Okay? That is why elite coaching matters so much. There's a reason why average Joe receivers can go to Andy Reid and Mahomes and put up numbers and still win. And it's not just because of those dudes, because Tyreek Hill, went to a different team. It's not just Mahomes, because Tyreek Hill goes to Tua and puts up even better numbers than he was with Mahomes, but also a very obviously smart, offensive-minded head coach. So, these things matter. I think the problem with the Bengals is obviously not what they do offensively. I'm okay supporting your quarterback and keeping this trio together, because we know when they're together, this offense is insane, is bonkers. Don't use this and this money allocation as an excuse to why the defense has been trash, because again, that's nonsense. Get the right defensive coaches, draft the right players, find the right players in free agency, and make it work. Like that's how it unfolds. That's how it unfolds. So if there was a elite special talent that you could pay for in free agency that was on, on the defensive side of the ball, sure, but that's not necessarily there per se. And especially to me, it wouldn't balance out potentially losing a T. Higgins, and now you're just going to have like an average defense with one really great weapon in Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and hope for the best. Again, that's not how this works. It's just not. And so, this is more along the lines of how are the Cincinnati Bengals going to run their franchise as a whole, and not so much how many weapons do we have on both sides of the ball. Can we afford defense now? It's like, no, how are you going to be coached? How are you going to develop players? How are you going to find players that maybe, other teams are not that high on, but your coaching staff knows how to put them in positions to succeed? What is you bring up the Eagles. The Eagles found Zach Bond. They made Zach Bond a thing, okay? They were able to get Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and make that work immediately. Immediately. All right? They were able to get CJ Gardner-Johnson for the year. They still went out and paid Saquon Barkley. They had to pay A.J. Brown. They had to pay Devontae, pay Jalen Hurts. Like, they still had to pay all those guys, and yet they were still able to find the key pieces on defense tied together by an elite defensive coordinator. Like, that's how this kind of works. Yeah, on one side, you can just pay for players. On the other side, you have to trust your coaching to elevate. The Kansas City Chiefs did that with Spags. They weren't out there buying and putting heavy money necessarily in the defense. So it's, yeah, I mean, the real question is do you trust the Bengals to be able to do these other more nuanced things, to do the less obvious moves? Because again, it wasn't obvious from my viewpoint when you look at the Eagles and what they were able to do and how they were able to win the Super Bowl. It wasn't so obvious what they were going to necessarily need to do. Because again, if it was obvious to you, well, then you should call up Fangio and ask to be like, hey, can I be a part of your staff? Okay, because then you and him see eye to eye. So it just, to me, the Bengals are such a great example as to why it's just so crucial to have such trust in your coaching staff. Because Sean Payton, it's the same thing with Sean Payton in terms of, although he takes a slightly different, he takes kind of the opposite approach, where he's like, no, listen, I'm so good. And I actually just did a clip about this on the Herd, where he's like, I'm so good in offense. I know that I can kind of maximize this offense. I can find my guys. I can find my diamonds in the rough. I can find my average guys and turn them into good or great, or find the good guys and make them great. Like, I can make it work. Put the money in defense, go out and get the dudes on defense, because, make that work, and I'll be able to do what I need to do. And it's kind of like the opposite with the Bengals right now. They haven't been able to build a complete team, and they haven't been able to coach a complete team. And to me, that's kind of where things kind of get messy. But if you were to tell me that they were going to be able to go out and get a few nice pieces on defense, but they were going to have to lose T. Higgins now, it's just like, it's not so clear to me that then nets them the playoffs. Because it's not clear to me that even with some of the right pieces defensively, that you're going to be able to get the job done. Because especially when you look at some of the Bengals and some of their issues on defense, like, there's clear-cut signs when I'm just like, what are you doing? It's not necessarily just like a lack of talent or just getting burned or this or that. You're just kind of like, what was that? What were you trying to do? What did you think the play was this time around? Like, I always talk about it all the time. It's execution, execution, execution. It's actually pretty shocking to me when you see teams stick with coordinators, or even head coaches for that matter, when they clearly come up short, and it's just like year after year after year, and you're just kind of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And it just never makes sense. And I think what it also sometimes ultimately comes down to is you have ownership and management, I guess, in general, the ones who are like actually making the actual decisions at the end of the day. It's like there seems to be this split belief in how important is coaching versus how important are the players. And we did see this obviously most magnified with a Jerry Jones, where it's kind of like, I build the team, I'm the man, I'm the guy. It's not coaching, it's the players that I find that I build together. And you just kind of want a coaching staff that kind of just goes along with it, right? That they're just kind of like, yes, they don't pound the table for anything. They're just kind of, more passive in that regard. And then you have other management that understands like how important it is to get the right coaches in place. And that if you hire a coach and it's not working out, it's like, well, then you got to move on. Doesn't matter how good of the players you have. If you don't have the right coaches in place, you're not going to win. And the Bengals DC, who they had for years, if he was the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles do not win the Super Bowl. There's not a doubt in my mind. Not a doubt in my mind. So that to me shows you how important coaching is. You know, just look what happens when you have a team hire a new. I mean, just look what Dan Quinn was able to do with the Commanders, Sean Payton with the Broncos. Like it just happens overnight. Look how quickly the Jets are going to look more stable. I'm not going to tell you that they're going to be able to win because that team itself is still a mess and, you know, ownership and all of that. But like, just I guarantee you, it's still going to feel it's going to feel instantly more grounded. And again, it's not just from a head coaching perspective. It's also coordinating. And if you don't have the coach in place, and maybe the Bengals do now, right? Maybe they do. And if they do, you're going to know very quickly. You're going to know very quickly. Yeah, it's a tricky situation. It's frustrating when you don't have a lot of trust in your franchise. I think that's also what it comes down to. If you had more trust in your franchise being able to make the right decisions, then, you know, you would maybe be a little bit more comfortable paying, like, you know what, we're going to pay $70 million to just these 2 wide receivers. When a lot of people are like drafting young wide receivers and, you know, our defense wasn't good. And it's like, if you trusted what you were able to build, if you were able to trust your ability to draft players, get the right coaches, et cetera, then you could say, yeah, no, this is great. We're doing something that we're going to blow teams out offensively. We're going to draft young and develop defensively. And, you know, we're going to be cooking. Our offense is going to be so special that all we need is like, you know, 10, 11, 12th ranked defense. And like, you know, we're good. We're ready to hit the races. Let's go. But you don't always necessarily have that confidence with the Cincinnati Bengals and their track record and their levels of success, quite frankly, prove that. So yeah, but I don't know if they were a more ruthless organization that really knew how to take big swings and make smart, high level decisions. And yes, you can move on from T. Higgins and do this, and you'll be able to draft, you know, someone else, and, you know, whatever it is, you could make smarter, high level decisions. But the Bengals are not there. But, you know, again, maybe what they do defensively this season will finally be the hit that they've needed on that side of the ball. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Cincinnati Bengals? You know, do you think this is a good idea to put all this money into the offense, specifically just 2 wide receivers? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.